Hello, and welcome back to the Notes and Quotes podcast. If this is your first time here, I am so happy that you've decided to join this community. And I am very excited right now because I just figured out that my mic can come off its handles and I can just like hold it differently now. So that is just the highlight of my day. I know, a bit lame, but that is very exciting for me. Anyway, today what we are talking about is friendships. Friendships in your 20s. Now, as most of you, well, actually, I say that very arrogantly. Some of you may know that we have just released a listener survey in which you guys can just go take a quick minute to fill out a quick survey. I'm not saying right now. I'm not saying right now. I'm just saying in general, you can go fill out a quick survey that is really less than a minute, a couple questions to just see what you like about the podcast, what you dislike, what you want more of, just kind of some feedback for us so we can know how to make the best possible podcast for you. And some of you have really actually been going and filling it out. And that makes me so happy because I love hearing the feedback from you guys. And on those feedback forms or survey, whatever you call it, one of you said that you want a topic about friendships in your 20s, people moving on and losing friendships, people being at different stages in their life to you, but you're both the same age, and like just life and friendships changing during this decade of your life. And when I read that, I was like, you know what? That is such a good point. We have never on this podcast talked about friendships in your 20s. We've talked about career, we've talked about life changes, we've talked about expectations, we've talked about comparison, but we've never talked about friendships. And so that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about having friends for a season. We're going to talk about being at different stages in your life from your friends. We're going to talk about how hard it is to stay in touch with friends, talk about the effort that it takes to make friends in your adulthood, and the different types of friends that you can have. So let's get into it. Now, people tend to say that your 20s are some of the best times of your life. But the thing is, I've heard people say that about your teenage years as well. Some people say it's the worst times of your life because of puberty and everything. But then people also say to treasure your teens because everything goes to shit after that, which is just so encouraging to hear. um, but people also say the same thing about your 20s. So I never really know which is the best decade of your life. Maybe it is whatever you make it. But I say all that to say, I think one of the reasons that people think that your 20s are some of the best times of your life is because you've got all this newfound freedom, right? And you can hang out with your friends without the interruption of parents or having to get permission for things or having to tell people where you're going to be, all that kind of stuff. You have more freedom. And that freedom is usually spent with your friends or your significant other or by yourself. But your friends are a big part of that. But what people really tend to overlook in your 20s is how fleeting friendships can be. But then at the same time, how some friendships you make become extremely solid. I don't know about you guys, but if we go back, I'm 22, so I'm only 2 years into my 20s. But if we go to me at 20 and me now, the caliber of friends, the number of friends, and the types of friends and whom I'm friends with is so incredibly different from 20-year-old me and 22-year-old me. I would comfortably say that I've got less friends, not necessarily, I hope not necessarily because of anything that I've done, but just because of life. You know, you move away, other people go on different paths. Sometimes you outgrow people, sometimes people change, and you most of the time it's just that you're on different paths. So I made a lot of friends in secondary school or high school, wherever you're from. And then I also made friends in university, but then I moved countries. So it's always really interesting when you move countries to see who keeps in touch with you and who doesn't, and who like is actually your friend, but that's a whole other topic. But I think that what I've learned throughout, the 2 years of me being in my 20s so far and just how quickly friendships change is that sometimes friends are for a season and not for a lifetime. And when I say that, I know it sounds like a super cliche statement, but when I say that, I think that I don't regret any friendships that I've had in my life because each and every one of them has been for the benefit of something. Whether it's me having a friend that was my best friend for so long and then we just outgrew each other, I learned so much about my own self and how to be friends with somebody. And, we had wonderful experiences, and that's something that I can treasure and have wonderful memories. if I was friends with somebody who turned out to be a terrible person, I learned, quite frankly, what not to be, where to set my boundaries. I learned about prioritizing my own self-respect. And then there's so many different other things. Sometimes friends stay for a really long time and they're meant to be friends forever. And then sometimes you have friends for a semester and then you move on and they change courses or something, or they change degrees, or they change universities, or whatever. They graduate before you, whatever. And you're no longer in touch just because of life. And that's okay, because for that period of time, for that season, that's what you needed. You needed them to be in your life for that period, and that's the value that you get from that. And I think that's beautiful. And I really value the friends that I've had for a season and the friends that have stuck around for a lifetime. And you know what's also I've really realized in the past few months? Sometimes you have friends from childhood and then you lose touch and whatever, and then they come back into your life at just the right time. I have this friend that I was friends with when I was, I want to say, I don't know actually what age we were, but we were in primary school and we were friends for a long period of time. And then we both went to different secondary schools and our paths didn't diverge anymore. So we just lost touch naturally, but we weren't like enemies or anything. And then I moved to England and she's in England and I have no one here. So we met back up and now we're really good friends again. And I find her to be a big value in my life as well. And then sometimes when you move away and you lose touch with a lot of people, some people that you didn't think that you would keep in touch with, you end up keeping in touch with, and those friends become stronger as well. So I think it's really interesting to see how friendships evolve in your 20s. But at the same time, there's also this really big struggle in your 20s because your friends are all at different stages in their life to you. Because let me backtrack before I talk about that. So, when you're in primary school, when you're in secondary school, and you're making friendships, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be making friends with the people who are in your class, the people who are in your year, the people in your grade, who are at the same level as you, doing the same things as you, even if they're studying different classes or something, they're still on the same immediate path. And so it's really easy to maintain those friendships because you see them every day at school. But then when you reach university, actually at university, you're kind of still on this similar immediate path, to graduate. But then when you graduate, everything goes crazy. Some people are having kids and getting married. Some people are moving abroad. Some people are studying some more. Some people are getting jobs. Some people are working, entry level jobs. Some people are getting their dream jobs. And then some people are just struggling and unemployed and just trying to figure out what they want with their life. And all of that's fine. But it's so hard to now, one, keep in touch, two, feel validated in where you are in your life because you're constantly comparing yourself to what's going on in your friend's life. And it's really, it's easy to say, oh, you shouldn't do that. Don't compare yourself. It's bad for you. Yeah, we all know. But when you're in primary school and you're in secondary school, you're in school and you're all on the same path, you're looking around at other people to validate where you are. And it's really easy because they're doing exactly the same thing you're doing. The worst thing that happens is that, oh, they're getting better grades than me and I feel crap about that. And that's something you have to work through. But more or less, you're on the same path and you're on the same journey, so you feel fine. But then when you graduate and everyone's path is becoming very unique, it's like, well, what now? Especially because when you're in your 20s, there's so much uncertainty. Nobody really knows exactly what they're doing. They might think that they do, they might seem like they do, but in reality, nobody really fully understands what's going on or where they want to be. It's all just uncertain. And because you're experiencing that uncertainty and you're still having that mentality of looking around at others for validation in where you are, it's like it feels like shit because nobody else seems to be going through the same things that I am. And my friend that I grew up with is so accomplished now and I'm not doing anything. Like what a whole year has just passed. We're now in 2025. What did I do in 2024? What have I done for the month of January? We're in February now and I feel like I've done nothing. I'm speaking for myself. I'm looking around at my friends who are now, a lot of them doing their masters and working in dream jobs. Can I just say, LinkedIn? Oh my God. If you want to feel bad about yourself, go to LinkedIn because everyone is just giving another update, another announcement. And I'm such a hypocrite as well because I'm trying to keep up with the pack. So I'll be doing the same thing. I've spent so much time revamping my LinkedIn just so it looks like proper. And it's not necessarily for the validation of anyone else. I mean, I'm not even going to lie, partly it is, but it's also so that I can feel like, oh, okay, I've done the necessary things to get me to where I want to be. And this is like the portfolio of it, my LinkedIn page. But at the same time, I don't post on LinkedIn as often as other people. And the people that post really often are always giving some amazing update, some incredible accomplishment that they've just done in their life. And it's like, well, damn. I mean, I spent 3 months looking for a job and I finally just got a part time one. And that was my big announcement. And you just got a promotion in your dream job and are traveling across the country to do some sort of like major presentation. And I'm looking at myself like, well, okay, guess I'm just a bit inadequate then. And it's such a crap mentality to have because everyone's path is different. You're doing fine. You are okay. Like, I know I keep saying this in all of my episodes as well. Like, you need to be comfortable in the fact that nobody else is going to be on the same path as you. So it makes no sense comparing. But at the same time, it's so easy to do so, especially when the people that you look around to as your close friends and even not close friends, but even old friends or people that you went to school with are just doing so many amazing things. And it feels like you're not. But the other thing that I would say when I've pondered on this is that everything up close looks different from how it looks from afar. So because you live your life every single day, because you know exactly what's going on in your life, all of the gory details, it looks different. You see the flaws, you see the cracks, you see the stumbles, you see the unmet goals, but it doesn't look like that to somebody else. You, when you're on LinkedIn, when you're on Instagram, when you're just talking to your friends, catching up, and hearing all the amazing things that are going on in their lives, from afar, it looks so glamorous and so great. But I'm sure if you were to ask them, there's shit going on in their life too. And when I say that, it makes me think, you know what, let me step back and look at my life from afar, and it looks pretty great. And I say that to my friends as well who will do this thing because I tend to be a bit of an overachiever. A lot of my life from afar looks like really cool. That's what people have told me. I'm not trying to be arrogant, I promise. But I don't really like that that's the case because then when I'm talking to my lovely friends, they'll be comparing their lives and doing that thing that we all do, where it's like, well, what am I doing with my life? And then I just try and tell them to please take a step back and look at where you were maybe a year ago, maybe 3 years ago, maybe even a month ago, and see the growth that you've had. And also, when I look at your life, I am jealous of things that are in your life. I am impressed by things that you are doing and that are going on in your life. So, can you please stop just comparing yourself? I hate, 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 hate when other people compare themselves to me because I do the same thing when I look at other people and I know how crap it feels. But I also understand how easy it is to do that in your 20s when everybody else is on a completely different path and there's no one to look to for validation anymore. So I get that. But I really encourage people to fight against it because it's not healthy in the slightest. Now let's talk about staying in touch with friends. Oh, I don't even know where to start with this one, guys. Listen, I don't know why, but in your 20s, staying in touch with friends feels like an entire chore. And that might just be me. Other people might be doing it brilliantly, but I don't know what it is. Like, and they say that social media makes it so easy for us to stay in touch now and to communicate with each other. And I guess in theory it does. Like, you can just text people, you can just call them up. It's easy. But for me, sometimes I just don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to be responding to all of the memes that people send me and the Instagram reels and stuff. I don't have the energy to be, and I know it sounds so bad, but I don't have the energy to be checking up on my friends every single week. Like, I can't, sometimes I'm just tired and I want to be there for my friends and I am there for my friends, but sometimes it's really difficult to stay in touch. And I'm the type of person that would be like, we won't talk. If we're not in the immediate vicinity of each other, we probably won't talk for a while. And then randomly, if I think about you or something reminds me of you, I'll send it to you and I'll be like, hey, oh my gosh, we haven't talked in so long. Like, how are you? We should meet up, blah, blah, blah. And then if we actually are in the same vicinity again, I'll hit you up and I'll, act like no time has passed. And that's my favorite kind of friendship because it's low maintenance. And I know that's not the same thing for everyone, but it just is so hard to keep in touch with everyone because one, nowadays everyone's on different time zones because so many of my friends have just gone all across the world. I've got friends in Canada now, I've got friends in the US, I've got friends in Barbados, obviously a ton still in Barbados because I'm from Barbados, and also a couple friends in England. And it's just hard to call people and it's hard to, respond to messages in a timely fashion. And I can't be added to any more group chats because, and it sounds like, oh, she's so popular. It's really not. It's the same set of friends that just create subgroup chats for different things. And I'm just like, guys, I can't do this. I can't keep trying to keep up with all of the different conversations that are going on. And then at the same time, I'm trying to make new friends in the area that I am so I don't go crazy with loneliness. And it's just so much. I feel like I need a phone detox sometimes just from messages and then also just from the pressure, the internal pressure that I have to keep up with people. Because then I'll be scrolling through social media and I'll see one of my old friends post and I'll be like, oh, I feel bad. I've not messaged them in months. They probably think I'm such a terrible person and that I don't care about them. But in reality, I think about you all the time and like you pop into my head and I really like the content that you post and I always like and comment and stuff, but I haven't had a meaningful conversation with you in months. But if we were to see each other, I absolutely would. And we could hang out and I'd act like no time has passed. So I don't know if that's a good thing or if it's just a me being lazy and a bad friend thing, but it's how I am. So sorry. I feel like it would be easier if we were all just back in school together and I saw all of my friends every single day and I could just keep in touch with them in that way. But to do it online feels like a second job. But I do the best that I can, and that's also why I don't like get offended if I message someone and they take a while to respond to me. I'll be offended if you leave me on scene for weeks on end. Yeah, but if you just take a couple days or a few hours or something to respond, I'm not getting my head hot over that because personally I get it. Sometimes you have no messages in your phone and it's just from that one person, but you just don't have the energy in you to respond and have a conversation right then and there, and I get that. Sometimes you have too many messages and you just don't have the time. Sometimes in general you just don't have the time to do any of it. And that's fair. You're not obligated to respond to every single person immediately. It's not an obligation. You're entitled to do what you want with your time in your life. And when I see you in person, depending on how you interact with me in person, then I know where we stand on our friendship. Also, the next thing is different types of friends that you have. And I don't think that this one is really unique to being in your 20s, but I think that it's something that is unique to adult friendships. So when you're young, like, and I mean really young, everyone you meet is your friend. Everyone you talk to is your friend. And then as you get older, you start to develop friendship tiers. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this a couple months ago. And I think of friendships in tiers. And what I mean by that is like, okay, tier one friendship is like my bestest friend that could literally be related to me. I tell them everything. I talk to them very regularly. I have no filter with them. They're a tier one friendship. Tier two is the friendships that stem off of that. Like they have the potential of being a tier one friendship. And I talk to them every now and then, but when we hang out, it's a good hangout and it's great. Like I love talking to them and they're amazing. Would I tell them every single thing about my life? Probably not, but I still would want to always hang out with them and be quite honest with them about certain things. Tier 3 friendship is more of a wider pool. So people that you are mutuals with online. people that you might be in large group chats with, people that you know from school, that kind of friendship. People that if you were to see them at a party, they'd be good to hang out with at the party, but would you talk one on one? Probably not. Then tier 4 and 5 friendship is interesting. So tier 4 is like, okay, if you were to see them as you're just walking down the street, you'd smile and wave and you'd talk to them for a brief moment to like catch up and be like, oh my gosh, it's so great to see you. How are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You might say, oh, we should meet up sometime, and then never meet up. And then tier 5 friendship, same scenario. You're walking down the street, you see them, and you smile and wave, but you never actually stop and talk. So tier 5 is like the people that you have interacted with before, but you never made a deep connection enough to actually have like a meaningful conversation in this moment. And tier 4 is like you may have had a meaningful conversation in the moment at the time that you met, but you're not really interested in continuing that relationship. So that's the tiers that I usually place people in. If you're a friend watching this, or listening rather, listening to this podcast, you might know what tier you're in. And I love you, but you know what tier you're in. So yeah, and I feel like the tiers become more prominent in your adult friendships. When you're young, like I said, tiers are muddy. I don't think you really have tiers because you just don't have your frontal lobe isn't fully developed yet. You don't really fully understand social interactions and that kind of thing, and it doesn't matter. You just want to be friends with everybody. But when you're older, it's exhausting to be friends with a large group of people, and the smaller your groups are, the better. So that's why the tiers are kind of like the circle gets wider the farther down you go in the tiers. So tier 1 for me is just one friend that I have. Tier 2 might be, 2, 3, 4 friends. And tier 4, no, where were we? Tier 3, it just gets larger and larger and larger as we go down, which is just natural. And I feel like that's a healthy way of having friends because one, it's too exhausting to have too many friends and is less meaningful. And then two, when you have a small group of meaningful friends or just one meaningful friend, I think it's so much better just for your mental health and just for your sense of connection and value in your life. And because I was so excited to talk about this topic, I completely zoomed straight over the quote of the day, which I've been looking at for this entire episode, but I just never said it out loud. Guys, I'm so sorry. Very unprofessional of me. Bad podcaster. Here is the quote of the day that inspired this conversation, along with what somebody told me in the feedback form. Okay, here's the quote. What no one tells you about growing up and chasing your dreams is that everyone tends to split off in different directions to chase theirs. It becomes harder to keep up with everyone. Some friendships come to a natural end. Some friends move far away, and some friends find new friends they prefer to see more often. That's our quote of the day. Does it not sound like what we've talked about? Because I'm telling you, when I saw this quote by Alice Catherine in this blog article that she wrote, I was like, okay, no, absolutely. Absolutely relate to that. And also the last point about some friends find new friends they prefer to see more often. I had that. Let's do a little story time. So I had a best friend in secondary school. We were friends for the entirety of secondary school, except for maybe our first few years in secondary school, but we were best friends. And nearing the end of secondary school, we were just about to graduate and go to different universities, things got weird. I don't know. No, actually, now I do know why. At the time, I didn't know why, but I know why now. And partially, it is my fault. We won't get into that. But it was my fault, but it was also a mutual thing as well. We discussed it. But anyway, what happened, in short, is that she started to become really, 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 really close friends with another, let's say, tier 3 friend of ours. And he was moving up the tiers real fast to the point where he became tier 1, and it was starting to like push me out of tier 1. I was no longer really the best friend. And I wasn't going to throw a hissy fit about it, but it did hurt like a little bit. Like she started to hang out with me less, tell me things a lot less. There were secrets and inside jokes they had, and they were always talking, always hanging out. And I felt a bit like, well, okay, I've definitely been replaced. And that is almost like a breakup. Like it literally hurts because it's like you've made this connection with somebody that's so deep for so long, and now you've been butted out and somebody else has taken that spot. And it's something that you have to deal with a lot when you have adult friendships and when you grow up and your friends prefer to be with other people more than they do with you. It's kind of the principle of outgrowing somebody. And there's a healthy and an unhealthy way to outgrow someone. I think that the way that me and my friend at the time, well, she is still my friend, but like we don't talk as much. She's now in the tier four. No, I'd say she's tier three because I would actually hang out with her still. Tier three friendship. And with us, I think we had at the time an unhealthy way of outgrowing each other. But then when we met up again and we talked about everything, we had a really healthy way of outgrowing each other. And the healthy way to outgrow each other is to just have a mutual understanding. Like whether it's life takes you on different paths and you no longer are able to keep in touch or hang out the same way that you did before, or if it's just that you realize that you have different values and you no longer think that this friendship is serving either of you, then fine. The unhealthy way of outgrowing people is to just kick them to the curb and like with no explanation. There's this mentality that goes around of people saying, "Oh, I'm going to do like a real life blocking of someone." You know when you block people online on social media and you just block them and they don't know that you've blocked them until they try and search for you and it's just like, "Oh, I've literally just been without any warning kicked out of this person's online life." Some people talk about doing that in person where they just stop all contact, they don't interact, they pretend like you don't exist, and it's a bit messed up. Like, I don't think that's a healthy way of dealing with things. I think we should communicate with each other and be like, you know what, I don't think this friendship is actually the really the best thing for me anymore. I've had a really great time being friends with you, or, if you haven't had a great time being friends with them, then just be honest and don't say you're a terrible person. Just say that I think we have different values and I feel like we'd probably be better off, not being friends. And that's okay. It might be scary to talk about, but that's okay. You can say that. And it's going to be better for you and them in the long run. And then sometimes you just, like I said, naturally outgrow someone. And that's okay, guys. It's going to happen in your 20s. When you're 20 and when you're 29, you are not going to have the same friends. You might have, if you're lucky, you might have, let's say, one or two of the same friends that you've had from that time. But when you're 29, the caliber of friends that you have is going to be so drastically different. I'm low-key scared to see the types of people that I'm friends with in 29 when I'm 29 because there's so many people that I love and hold dear to me right now that I want to stay as friends with throughout my entire life. And I hope that they stick around and I hope that I stick with them. But I do see that there's some people in my life that I might be beginning to outgrow and that we might lose touch, especially considering that I've moved across the world. It's hard to stay in touch with people. And so, you know, that's that. That's friendships in your 20s, guys. Now, this was a complete ramble. There was no like real major planning to this episode. So I hope it had some sort of value to you. And now I just want to tell you that I love you. I'm so happy that you're a part of this community. I'm so happy that I'm here to be able to share my thoughts with you and to answer the topics that you find that you need to hear about. That's what I'm here for, to make a podcast for you. So anyway, that's all from the Notes and Quotes podcast today. That's all from me, your host, Naomi Cambridge. And if you want to get some more content from the Notes and Quotes podcast, make sure to follow us on our socials. We are on my personal favorite, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok. I love Instagram, so go follow us on the Instagram, but also follow us on all of them because I post on all of them, guys. And if you want more of me, you can check me out on my Instagram, Naomi A. Cambridge. And what else do we usually say? Oh, go fill out the listener survey. Go fill out the listener survey because that would really, really, really help with the feedback. And I will see you again next Tuesday. That's all, guys. Love you loads. See you next Tuesday.